Welcome back to another episode of Break the Silence. I am your host, Cyborg, and today we're going to be talking about one of the most interesting teams in the NBA for this upcoming season, the Cleveland Cavaliers, a team certainly with title aspirations, a team I believe will make the NBA Finals, but more than that, a team that has to make the NBA Finals based on the fact that they are going to be over the second apron this upcoming season, and I'm going to break that down a little bit, what that means, what the implications are, and why that's so important. But a team that this offseason really continued to go all in. We weren't sure if they were going to salary dump. We saw teams like the Boston Celtics get off of some salaries and, kind of treat this upcoming year as a down year. But the Cleveland Cavaliers said, no, we're going to keep our core intact, and we're going to continue to go for it regardless of what it means for future years. This year, making the NBA Finals and potentially winning a championship is what's important. And I love that the Cavs did that. So let's talk about it. But before we do, make sure you take a second to subscribe to the channel. We're coming very close to 1,300 subscribers. We're grinding NBA content. So if you love the NBA and, love talking about multiple teams, make sure you take a second to subscribe to the channel. Appreciate y'all on that. So let's start with this. The Cleveland Cavaliers this upcoming season will have a payroll of $228,898,634. That puts them over the second apron. So basically, with the new CBA that was constructed, that came out a couple years ago in the NBA, there's not a hard cap, but there are these soft caps, which is kind of like the first apron. If you're over X amount of dollars, you hit that first apron, where you accrue some penalties and it makes your team a little harder to build. But if you're over the second apron, which is a little higher number, then it creates some serious restrictions. For instance, you have no access to the $5 million mid-level exception, which is pretty significant in adding players to teams and filling out rosters. You can't use your trade exception. You can't include cash in a trade. You can't trade your picks that are 7 years out, your first-round picks. And that can sometimes be a big deal if you're trying to make a trade. And if you are over that second apron for 3 of 5 years, your first round pick is then moved to the very end of the draft that season. So some pretty serious penalties that teams don't typically want to endure because it hurts your opportunity to build for the future. And so if the team that you currently have doesn't work out, you can sometimes be strapped in the following years, and there's more penalties to it and things of that nature. It's a pretty hard CBA to understand, honestly, if you've went and tried to read it. But the Cavs this offseason said, we don't care. We're still going to go all in. Last season, they were first in the NBA in scoring, second in field goal percentage, second in the NBA in three-point percentage, third best in turnovers, sixth in rebounding. You're talking about a team that really is played at a high level in almost every aspect of the game. They have one of the best defenders in the NBA, the Defensive Player of the Year, Evan Mobley. They have Jarrett Allen, who's a great rim protector. They went and added DeAndre Hunter midway through last season, a move that I loved for adding some forward depth, because I think that's where they were really lacking last season. So this is a team that's all in, an organization that's all in, and they have players that I think take the game of basketball very seriously. Donovan Mitchell has been on very successful regular season teams for a long time, dating back to his time in Utah. They were, 1 seed, they were 2 seed multiple times for the Utah Jazz. And then he comes to Cleveland, and it's a team that, again, continues to compete. A guy who really plays basketball the right way, allows his teammates to get involved, feels like he finishes games at a high level. I actually live in Ohio, so I get to go up to Cavs games quite often. The electricity in the stadium when Donovan Mitchell makes a great play, including some of the most impressive dunks you'll ever see, is incredible. And it feels like in those tight moments when games are close, you know that he's going to come through. But the postseason last year obviously didn't go the way that they wanted to. So they went this offseason, they added Lonzo Ball, they added Larry Nance, and they're going to have this full year of DeAndre Hunter. Now, Lonzo Ball, obviously we have our questions about. They traded Isaac Okoro for him. They did lose Ty Jerome in free agency, who was really good for him last year. I think he struggled in the playoffs a little bit, but you added a guy in Larry Nance who's played in Cleveland before, is actually a player that I think a lot of Cavs fans really love. But he adds some front court depth to a unit that's already probably the best starting front court in the entire NBA. They maybe have the best starting lineup, honestly, in the entire NBA. You're talking about 4 guys that potentially are all-stars any given year. And then you have Max Strus as your 3, DeAndre Hunter coming off the bench. You do kind of have some nice depth now with Strus, Hunter, Nance, and Mobley. You have 4 pretty decent forwards, and you have Jarrett Allen at your center position, but you can go small if you need to, so you can get those rotations there. And then at guard, they re-signed Sam Merrill, a player who shoots the lights out of the basketball. They signed him to a nice deal. And then, you have your Garland and Donovan Mitchell, Lonzo Ball. So you have very good, I believe, pretty good depth, honestly, on this Cavs team. You lost Karis LeVert last offseason, but to me, none of those moves are that significant. So what went wrong in the playoffs last year for the Cleveland Cavaliers? Well, a significant part of it is just staying on the court and the ability to be healthy, because we have seen this team achieve great things in the regular season, but when they get to the playoffs, it feels like they're always missing a guy. You look at last postseason, Darius Garland missed 4 of their 9 playoff games. The year before that, Donovan Mitchell obviously was hurt in their playoff series against the Boston Celtics in 23-24. So in 24-25, which is the last postseason, Darius Garland missed 4 games. Evan Mobley missed a game. And then DeAndre Hunter missed a game. And Sam Merrill missed a game. You're talking about a team that, if they can just keep their primary players on the court, you'll see so much more success. But not only did those guys miss games, they're also then rushing back from injury, and it creates they're not playing to their full potential. And when they're injured, sometimes it makes guys timid. It makes them, come up a little smaller than they normally would in those moments. So this upcoming season, the question mark is, can these players stay on the court? Now, adding Lonzo Ball, a player last season that played 35 games and didn't play the 2 seasons before that, obviously health is going to be another question mark for him. But if he can stay healthy, you're talking about a player that was good on the defensive end of the court. Obviously, we didn't get to see a whole lot last season, but also great at moving the ball in transition. I think having him and Donovan Mitchell on the court at the same time could be electric. But the reason that this upcoming season is so important for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and I believe that they'll be really good, and I believe that they'll come out of the Eastern Conference, is because title windows in the NBA close so fast, faster than you can really even understand. You talk about a team like the Utah Jazz when they had Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. They finished number 1 in the Eastern Conference, and then 2 years later, those guys are off the team and they're rebuilding. The Boston Celtics win the NBA Finals, think, we have Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, Derek White. We're going to be good for a really long time. This offseason, they're now rebuilding. The Indiana Pacers, in the NBA Finals, Tyrese Halliburton gets hurt, Miles Turner leaves. Money-wise, they're going to be in an interesting spot. That team's going to be rebuilding. The Philadelphia 76ers thought, we have Joel Embiid, we're going to add Paul George. They drafted, a couple good young players in Maxey, Jared McCain. That team's potentially rebuilding. The Phoenix Suns went and traded for Kevin Durant. We're in the NBA Finals with DeAndre Ayton, with Chris Paul, with Devin Booker. And now that's one of the worst teams in the NBA. The NBA, you have to take advantage of your moments when they come to you. And that's what I think is so important for this Cavs team this upcoming season. This is your moment. The Eastern Conference has no Jason Tatum, and the Boston Celtics aren't going to be real threats. The Indiana Pacers that knocked you out last year lost their best player, lost Miles Turner, not going to be real threats. You do have some young teams in the Orlando Magic that'll be interesting. You add Desmond Bane to a team that was young and pretty talented. They lost Cole Anthony. We'll see how they look, but they're definitely a team that's interesting. The Detroit Pistons are going to be adding back Jaden Ivey, who's a good young player. They're another team that's young and interesting. The New York Knicks, they obviously changed their coach. They added Jordan Clarkson, re-signed Mikal Bridges. The Knicks, I think, will be probably the second best team in the Eastern Conference. But this is the Cavs' year. If you want to win a title, the time is now to go win a title for the Cleveland Cavaliers and have one of the greatest seasons in franchise history. At least come out of the Eastern Conference. And once you get to the NBA Finals, anything can happen. We saw that last NBA Finals when we had a great series with the Thunder and Pacers. Now, obviously, Tyrese Halliburton tearing his ACL in Game 7 was devastating. But we never would have thought that the Pacers could contend in that series, and they absolutely did. So, Cleveland, go out, have another great regular season, but stay healthy for the playoffs, because this is your time, this is your year to go contend for an NBA championship, and we want to see it. Do it for the state of Ohio. Appreciate y'all watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Cyborg out.